This is KGW News at 11.
It's been nearly 2 weeks and protesters are still showing up strong. Thousands marching again today in East Portland, demanding an end to police brutality and racial injustice.
And here's a live look from Sky 8 tonight as hundreds of people pack around the Justice Center downtown. The unrest we're seeing sparked by the death of George Floyd, who died while in police custody in Minneapolis. And thanks for staying up with us tonight. I'm Kristen Severance.
And I'm Brittany Falkers. And that's where we begin tonight, in downtown Portland. Art Edwards has been down there for the last several hours. Art, what are you seeing?
Well, we're standing a little bit south of the Justice Center. We are on 3rd between Madison and Jefferson. So you can see what's going on right now. They've got the bright lights on outside the Justice Center, and people are lined up around the fence that is separating them from the building. Now, in the last couple of minutes, we have seen people shaking the fence on the far end, at the north end of this. They've been shaking the fence. Police have been making an announcement to tell them not to shake the fence, not to tamper with the fence. If they do, they'll be subject to arrest. At that point, after they made the announcement, a few things were thrown at the building, and then that all settled down, and they've just been doing some chants from there. Throughout the evening, they've been chanting Black Lives Matter, don't use tear gas, George Floyd. They've been chanting things like that. A number of members of the clergy of the clergy in the area came out because they wanted to see if they could help keep this a peaceful event. We talked to Reverend E.D. Mondane earlier, who's also the president of the local chapter of the NAACP.
We're going to be there as a spirit of calm, a spirit of peace, a spirit of reasoning, and a spirit that says we understand. Protest, be angry, and sin not.
The crowd out here is probably, maybe several hundred people. As we look into Chapman Square, where most of the people are standing, there are people you could see about half to two-thirds of the way back through the square. Again, in the last few minutes, people have been shaking the fence. They've been doing that off and on during the evening, and they've been making announcements that have been telling people not to tamper with the fence. They say if they do, they'll be subject to arrest. They just made another announcement. I couldn't quite hear exactly what it was, but the crowd started booing as soon as that happened. Sheriff Mike Reese came out earlier. He walked up to the fence, talked to a few people, got a really, really frosty reception. They were yelling a lot of things at him. So he turned around, went right back into the building. Back to you guys.
All right, Art, thank you. We'll be sure to check back in with you later on in the show. You know, Portland police say they arrested 50 people at last night's demonstration. We wanted to see how that number compared to arrest numbers over the last week. So you can see on numbers based on what Portland police have released that last Saturday, so yesterday 50 arrests, and then last Saturday 48 arrests. Those 2 nights had the most number of arrests, and then on Wednesday just 1 arrest. That had the lowest number. And for the second time, police are offering a different perspective to the protest. They're live streaming from behind the fence that's surrounding the Justice Center. You can see the live camera right now. We have seen people throwing items over the fence several nights this past week, and you did hear from Art saying that, you know, people were also throwing things, shaking the fence, and police were telling people to stop, you know, shaking the fence. Right now, you know, we're not seeing much from that camera, but, you know, as the night progresses, we do expect to see more.
And earlier today, we talked to protest organizers about the nightly chaos that's happening outside the Justice Center versus the large peaceful protests we see during the day. They say the anger inside people who feel oppressed comes out in all types of ways, and they want to work to bridge the gap between the two different types of demonstrations.
And sometimes when you're looking at violence and looting and these words that are constantly things, that's what you think of, oh, well, that's going to further hurt our community, right? So we're bridging those efforts. We're trying to make it so that further destruction is not there. We're going to go help clean up that. And we're going to try to make sure that the further destruction of human bodies and life is not there, so we're going to go protect them. I'm not going to go tell them that their efforts are wrong or right, but I'm going to try to go there and reduce the amount of harm and destruction that is happening so that the messages across the board are being heard.
Kaylee Chalmers was at one of those peaceful protests today as thousands of demonstrators marched through the streets east of the river, calling for serious police change. She joins us now in front of the Justice Center. Kaylee, what are you seeing now?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, we're actually just about a block north of the Justice Center. You mentioned we were east of the river earlier. We have moved over to downtown Portland, again just about a block north of the Justice Center, where you can see what basically you heard Art Edwards describe a few moments ago. Hundreds of people outside the fence that is now surrounding the Justice Center, has been now for days. A few minutes ago, we did see the crowd kind of rattle shake the fence. The police then announced that if they continued to do so, they would be arrested. We then saw some water bottles being tossed over the fence. This is all happening on this side of the building. Since then, we haven't seen much. Again, people still gathered out here. Obviously, lots of emotion. I tell you, it has been an emotional day, both on this side of the river and the other side of the river as well. Earlier tonight, across the Willamette, certainly a different kind of demonstration.
Divest from the Juvenile Gang Enforcement Team.
Once again, people of all ages gathered at Revolution Hall in Southeast Portland at about 6 o'clock this evening. They carried signs, they chanted, and they heard speeches about the importance of change. Organizers read off a list of policy changes they would like to see made. Some of those changes include the immediate reduction in budget dollars for the Portland Police Bureau. They're also calling for the defunding of the transit police, as well as the gun violence reduction team. And much like it was last night, the demonstration earlier on the east side was non-violent. Now, interestingly enough, though, the organizers are not calling it peaceful. They say they won't be at peace until there is justice and until there is an end to police brutality. And both organizers and demonstrators say they are far from done.
We're not going to stop coming out here until we see change and actual policies enacted to protect us. And my son's out here to show other kids that they can do something as well.
I want everyone to come out here and understand that this is a movement that impacts everyone, and that everybody should be invested and engaged with this movement. Because one, we're not going away, and two, we're just asking for basic human rights.
Now, that demonstration started winding down around 9:30 tonight, shortly after it got dark. Back here live in downtown Portland, things not quite winding down yet as people still gathered outside of the Justice Center. Protesters on one side of the fence and the police obviously on the other side of the fence. Again, we'll be out here throughout the evening and we will keep you posted on what happens out here. In the meantime, reporting live in downtown Portland, Keely Chalmers, KGW News.
All right, Keely, thanks so much. Police tweeting just a few minutes ago that they're advising that the crowd, there's criminal activity occurring. They're asking non-violent demonstrators to leave now. So we'll definitely check back in with you later in the show. And